So I think it was around that time. It was probably around like that 6-month mark where, you know, you and I kind of had that conversation of you were falling behind on your content because you were getting busier. And so like, I find that when, especially when it's when you're just getting started and you're starting to get busy, that when you have a lot of time in the beginning and then you get busy, it's like you feel really busy. And so you feel like you don't have time for those extra things. And we had a conversation about just like scheduling time to like making it a priority to create content. So I think that's a big issue that a lot of people struggle with when it comes to regularly creating content. So talk a little bit about like what helped you get on track and stay focused and make sure that it got done.
100%. Yeah. So obviously it's a good thing that you're getting busier, right? But with wearing these hats, the business owner, the marketer, the chiropractor, you have to look at the big picture and start understanding that you're going to start taking on more of a CEO role. And I can tell you 100%, any CEO out there has their day from 5 a.m. to the time that they go to bed scheduled.
Right.
And the things that they have scheduled, they do them at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest thing for me was I just wasn't scheduling a time to do the videos.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, oh, we're going to do the videos today. And then I'd have insurance to go over or patient notes to go over, or I had to go meet someone for lunch. And it would always be that thing on the back burner.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, the marketing is going to help build the practice. That's a high priority item.
Right.
The conversation that we had was super enlightening, and just schedule the time, right? Cut out all of these other factors that make it complicated. Make it as simple as possible. So when you're doing the videos, tell your staff, tell your CAs that you're going to do this video today. Have them come up with the 3 or 4 bullet points that you're going to do in the video.
Mm-hmm.
Have that in a sticky note that goes right on your desk, and allot that time every week where you're going to do the videos consistently. And you basically take out any of the extra stuff. It's all planned. Make it as simple as possible. Remove all those factors and you'll get them done.
Yeah. I'd add 2 other things to that is if there's like a tripod to set up, or you have lighting set up, or whatever it is that like needs to get done before you hit record, have somebody do that. So when you walk in, it's ready to go. Like you just have to show up and be the talent and like do the thing that only you can do. All the rest of it should be done by someone else so that it's easy for you to do it. So you don't start making excuses on why not to do it. And then secondly is like make somebody accountable. Like whoever your best CA, like Alexa sounds like she's your rock star. Make that person accountable, especially if you're scared to disappoint them. Because if you like I deal well with like negative repercussions. So like if I feel like other people are expecting something from me, that I'm more likely to get it done than if it's just me that, you know, I'm just telling myself that I need to get something done. When you involve other people, then it becomes something where it's like you're just one part of the wheel and you'll feel bad if you don't get it done, which is usually enough for most people.
When I rest my head on the pillow at night, all I hear Alexa saying is, "Did you do your videos today?" It haunts me, man, but it works. It works. You need somebody to yell at you a little bit.
Yep, absolutely. Speaking of content, like, you know, you've been doing it long enough now to where this is probably about the time where you start to have people in the community notice it, or patients say like, "Oh, I'm seeing you a lot," or like people recognize you in the store. Like, have you started to see some of that in terms of, especially like in what seems like probably kind of a close-knit community? Do you see more like awareness of you being out there?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because perfect example, yesterday, I just joined a new gym.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the front desk and the manager of the gym goes, "You look familiar. Have you been here before?" And I'm like, "No, this is my first time." She's like, "Are you on Facebook?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Are you the chiropractor?" I'm like, "Yeah." And that happens all the time. And it's the best feeling in the world, because the only people that aren't going to come in and get care are the people that have no idea that you're there, who you are, or what you do.
Right.
So I think, it's maybe too big to say that your local celebrity status, but you want to be the mayor in your town, right? And these content videos, I have definitely noticed that people recognize me everywhere I go. They may not know exactly from where, but
yeah. Well, it's, you know, like the manager of the gym is like a perfect example, because like the videos that she's probably seen are around low back pain or neck pain or headaches or, you know, condition based stuff. And she might not have any of those, but just the fact that you show up in her feed consistently, like maybe she's never watched one of the videos, but she knows your face and she knows that you're a chiropractor. And honestly, in a small town, and all of us are basically in a small town. Even if you're in a big city, you're only influencing maybe about 100,000 people. So it's like everybody's in their own little small town. And to be what I call it small town famous, to be small town famous by showing up on the platforms where they're spending their time and their eyeballs are, you know, what better way to ingratiate yourself or like start a conversation? Because it's a whole lot easier now to, you know, like imagine you walked in there and you wanted to do a spinal screening or you wanted to do a lunch and learn. It's a whole lot easier to get a yes if they already know who you are. Because you just can't help yourself to where if you know someone and they don't know you, they seem kind of famous. You know what I mean? Like she's not like falling over asking for your autograph, but in her mind, it's like the fact that she even knows who you are means something in her mind. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's amazing because it really it's the opportunity, right? It's the opportunity to have the conversation. Oh, I'm a chiropractor. Great. Here I am. This is what I do. If you ever need, right? That conversation, it's a normal conversation. It flows.
Yeah.
So the door swings open in ways that you don't expect, but that organic conversation is what's going to drive your chiropractic business. It doesn't seem like I'm selling chiropractic to her. She just asked me and we started up a conversation. So that's been really cool.
And who doesn't want to go to the famous chiropractor, right?
Right.
Yeah. And awareness is step one. They have to, like you said, they have to at least know that you exist. And if you just hide in your office, whether it's going out and knocking on doors or whether they see you on Facebook, you have to make sure that people know who you are, what your face looks like, and, you know, hopefully what you do. So, that's a good example of how content can help. So when you got to that 6-month point, is it still just you and Alexa? Did you hire anyone else in those 3 months?
Yeah. So when we hit the 6-month mark, we were at probably 200 visits a week.
Wow.
And I could see that Alexa was starting to get a little frazzled.
Yeah.
And we knew that it was time to hire somebody else.
Sure.
Things that she was getting bogged down with were being on the phone when patients were coming in or verifying insurances. So we knew that if we wanted to keep growing, we had to hire extra help. And the biggest thing that we focused on, and it's been an absolute game changer, is Alexa is very type A, right? She's in the driver's seat. Mm-hmm. So I didn't look for another Alexa. Mm-hmm. For someone who was maybe type B, somebody a little quieter, a little bit more reserved, right? We talk about front of the house CA, back of the house CA, right? And so when we were looking, we were looking for qualities of somebody who was dependable, nice, sweet, detail-oriented. And what we found is that that person may take a little bit more training, a little bit more coaching. Mm-hmm. The match is made in heaven. It's perfect. They don't step on each other's toes. So we hired Betsy at that point, and the relationship has just developed and grown. It's been really cool to see how the different personality types work super well together, and depending on the patient too.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot to be said for that, for people to kind of be able to gravitate towards one or the other. So when you got to that 6-month point, you're seeing about 200 a week. What were you seeing visit wise at the end of the 3 months?
At the end of the 3 months, I think we were maybe about 100.
Okay. So it was pretty steady growth through that first 6 months. What collection wise were we at that 6-month point per month?
We were in about the 25 to 30K range.
Okay. Great. All right. So in that 6 to 9 month range, that's where you bring on Betsy. So now it's a team of 3. You are able to service more patients. Things are probably getting more efficient. What was kind of the growth piece in that 6 to 9 month mark?
Definitely. So the 6 to 9 month mark was really figuring out how the three of us work together as a team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm in here adjusting, 200 patients. I'm busy, right? So I'm kind of in the trenches here. It's hard for me to do a lot of training with her. So I really put it to Alexa to be able to cross train both of them so that if one of them's away, they can take care of each other. But I would say that we had a couple weeks where Betsy was just getting her sea legs, and it wasn't even necessarily like knowing how to do all the stuff in the office. It was a confidence perspective. So I think the biggest thing that we had to instill in her was, you're managing these patients' care to give them the best experience possible. And once she understood that she was kind of in the driver's seat, then we just continued to grow from there.
Yeah.
So it was definitely managing more of it from the team perspective, I would say, that 6 month period. And again, fine tuning the systems. Each state, your insurance is a little different. We do a mix of insurance and cash. Up north is a really big insurance state. Yeah. But the biggest part was having her iron out the little details, the stuff that, people don't necessarily want to do, but those are all the things that make the practice run. So it was sort of ironing out roles, cross-training, while making sure that the patients that we had coming in were still getting that consistency of care.
Yeah. Did you feel like at that point that you needed to start learning more about leadership? Did you read any books? Did you do anything specific to try to be a better leader now for what is now, technically a group of people?
Definitely. I mean, I think that's where coaching comes in. I think I was having weekly coaching calls at that point. They're a lot less now, but to be able to have a sounding board of somebody who's been there before. And, what I like about my coach is he's not going to pad my ego. He's going to tell me straight, right? You don't know what you don't know. I think the biggest thing with chiropractors is they do things a certain way because they feel like it's the right thing without consulting or talking to anybody else. And in reality, you can be wrong all day long and your practice will suffer for it. And you can call yourself Mr. Right. So it was definitely the coaching aspect for sure that helped push me along and being more of that management CEO position.
Yeah. How much of your, if you're working 40 hours a week, I assume you're working 40 to 50 hours a week right now?
I work 32. We don't work. We're only here. We're here Monday through Thursday, 9 to noon, 3 to 6, and then Friday, 9 to noon.
Okay, but in between, I mean,
oh, I'm sorry,
outside of the office and whatnot. What do you think you're putting in hours wise at this point?
With all the outside stuff, at least 60 hours a week.
At least what?
At least 60 hours a week.
60. So what percentage? So 32 is the treatment time, right? Yeah. So if you're working 60 hours a week, you're half the time you're treating, half the time you're basically working on the business. What percentage of the time do you think you're spending on working with the team, leading the team, managing meetings, whatever?
I would say that team training is huge.
Yeah.
At least 30% of what we do. And if I could have more, it would be more. So we always do pre and post shift huddles. So we have trainings before and after every shift to talk about what went wrong, what went right, how we can improve. Every Tuesday morning, we have an hour-long meeting where we go over even the basics, the system basics. Hey, we're not doing this anymore. Let's fine-tune this.
Yeah.
And now with Friday afternoons available, we don't leave at noon. We're here till 3, 4, 5, 6, solely on training. And you have to understand that your systems and procedures are what's going to carry you through. When times are busy, when you feel like the wheels are coming off the train, revert back to your systems and procedures, and you're going to give patients the best experience possible, even if, in your head, you're feeling like, 1,000 things are happening at once. Yeah. And the thing I would say with the training is I feel confident that my team's got my back. I never have to worry or wonder or micromanage because we train so often.
Yeah. I tell you what, for somebody in their first year of practice, this is usually something that people kind of begrudgingly start doing once they get to a point where it's just like they get so frustrated, they're like, okay, we have to train. But to start out that way, man, what a good way to start. Because when you hire people, whatever you're doing when you hire them, they're fine with. Anything you start to add on or change after they've been hired, you're possibly in for a fight, right? But if every single person that gets hired on your team comes into a training culture, there is no question about like, we train 30% of the time. So it isn't something you have to convince them of. You know what I mean?
No, and I think that when we're talking about the bar, right? There's a bar with there. I honestly, I feel like what I do is the bar, right? You know, of course, people could say that I do a little extra. I think every chiropractor should be doing the things that I'm doing base level. I think that's what patients deserve. I think that's what employees deserve, right? And what I can tell you is that training sets the expectation, but it also provides comfort to your staff to handle those situations that an untrained staff has no idea what to do with, right? And so your staff will go home at the end of the day and they'll go, oh my gosh, this happened at work. I had no idea what to do with it. The doc was working with patients. I couldn't talk to him. We never have that happen because we're proactive, not passive and reactive. How many times have you heard that in taking care of chiropractic patients, right? Yeah. So your business should run in a chiropractic lifestyle just the way that you take care of patients.
I will tell you right now that chiropractors do not like to run their businesses using the same advice they give to patients. That is a fact. They want all the magic bullets. They don't want to do any of the hard work. They don't want to listen to anybody. We are sometimes our worst patients, just in a different situation.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I would also say that I think one thing for me is I never feel like I've arrived. I've made it.
Yeah.
I always feel like I know nothing. You know what I mean? I feel like there's more to learn. There's more to train. I can always improve. And I honestly, I think I get that from my dad. Yeah. You know, he wasn't afraid to call me out when I was being lazy or when I wasn't doing the job I was supposed to do when I was young. So I definitely have him to thank for that. But the more that you learn and grow, the more that I feel like I know nothing. So it makes me hungry to continue to push and learn and train and do all these things that patients expect of us.
Yeah.
To raise the caliber and the bar of the chiropractic profession as a whole. We need to do that.
Yeah. Well, when you have to keep relearning the same lessons over and over and over again, it's hard to like go on to the next thing. So it's good to like, because there's always something more to learn, but if you're always stuck here, it's like you never get to move on beyond that and start to learn those other things. So I think it's your, you know, I would imagine that you're kind of systematic about like when you reach an obstacle, all right, let's knock that down, but let's create a system so that it's not a problem in the future so that we can move on to the next thing that we need to learn.
And just build it in, just like your schedule. Just build it in. We're going to build in these problem-solving solutions. It's going to be part of what we do every day. It's a normal course of business, and then it's easy.
Yeah. So months 6 to 9, that's really where the team building, the training, like ironing out the systems even more. That's probably the biggest focus that you had there.
100%. Yeah. I think ironing out the systems, you know, everyone is wanting to get to the next thing, but you have to understand that you have to have the basics. You have to have the scaffolding in place to manage a higher volume.
Yeah.
It's funny what I see in a day now. If I saw that, you know, in my first 3 months of practice, I would have absolutely lost it. I would have probably left the building. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like I said, those systems and those procedures and the training makes it so that I can see the number of people that I do in a day and things feel organized.
Yeah.
I can stay calm so I can take care of my patients to the best of my ability.
Great. So at the 9-month mark, where were you at visit wise? Where were you at collection wise?
So at the 9-month mark, we were at the 270. We were at 275.
Okay.
275, and we sat there for a little bit, not long, and we were doing probably 40K. Yeah, about 40K a month.
Okay.
And that was the time for me to sit back and say, you know, what can we do that's going to push things forward? So at that point, I decided to expand the business. So we did another build out, not a big build out, but another 500 square feet. And we added 3 decompression tables, because as you start to grow in volume, you start to get comfortable with where you're at. You almost need pressure on the system to push it to grow. So most people have said, well, don't you want to get into practice for a year before you add anything else? No, absolutely not.
Right.
I want pressure on the system so that we can continue to grow. So as soon as I decided to do that build out, get a line of credit, another loan, we popped up over the 300 mark just like that. And that's where we've been kind of ever since.
So these last couple months, because you're not at the 12-month mark yet, but these last couple months, that build out and adding that decompression, you already had a decompression table. You just added more tables. Is that right?
No, I didn't. So
you didn't have any decompression?
Nope. I have 3 intersegmental traction tables that people go on before they get adjusted. But the decompression, I saw the need. You know, there are those patients, those severe acute patients, disc patients, degenerative patients, and I saw that we could fill another gap, right?
Yeah.
In any business, you have to look for the demand, and I could tell that there was a host of patients that I knew if I added this, I could help them with that extra hump, and where maybe they would be thinking about the injections or surgery route.
Right.
So that was the basis of it. It wasn't the business. It was chiropractic intentioned. So when we did that, you know, that was a whole set of skills I had to learn. It was a whole, you know, literature, you know, a whole new set of study, and then working that into the systems that we work on so hard as it is. So it was a lot of extra training and trying to figure out, okay, what piece and role does this fit into the practice as a whole? And to be honest, that's something that we're still working on growing right now.
Yeah. What have you learned as you've started to add that in for people that might be interested in either adding or being better at decompression?
I would say a couple of things that I've learned. One is for initial patients coming in that you know are perfect candidates for care, even though the price point is going to be higher with an additional therapy, and you feel that it's going to make the huge difference, you can't be afraid to give them recommendations.
Yeah.
Now, you know, you can be flexible and reel some of those back on the decompression side. Got to be upfront about, this is the recipe to get you better. It's going to be worth the money, right? Yeah. The number 2 thing that I would say is that, you know, when we had a conversation about the price point, right? I was thinking about doing it for $100 a session, and you highlighted a really good point where, you know, if someone's going on the table for the decompression table and they're not seeing results and they're paying $100 a session, at the end of that care, they're going to feel like they got gypped, right? So I lowered my price point a bit. We're somewhere between, and it depends on the plan, but between $50 and $67 a session.
Yeah.
We've reeled that back and found that price point has more people who are more comfortable with the idea of using it as an additional therapy.
And to me, like, anybody can charge whatever they want, but you know, I've had decompression pretty much from the time I started, and I've always just treated it the same way that I would, you know, like laser or in the beginning when I was doing like e-stim and ultrasound, because to me, I'm like, it doesn't matter how much I paid for it. It's more about, like, I want the adjustment to be kind of the star of the show. So I want that to make up the bulk of my care plan. But I do want to explain to them that, you know, exercise or massage or laser or decompression are basically supportive of the adjustment. And if they've got a disc issue, it's like, it's integral. Like, we gotta focus on both, you know? And I just think that when you're like, sometimes, like, I talk to people that are in certain programs that, man, they're asking them to pay what they would for like a small used car. And I'm like, man, you're good at sales if you can get, you know, a lot of people to say yes to that. But I've just seen it enough times where it can start, especially in a smaller community, it can start to create, it might work for the first year, for the first couple of years, but then you get enough people that didn't feel like they got value from it, that you can create some negative feelings out in the community, where even if people don't get everything that maybe they had hoped from at a reasonable price, they don't feel bad about it. You know, they don't feel like they got taken advantage of. So that's always my kind of thoughts on the non-chiropractic pieces of the office.
Yeah. And I think, I think we need to get more comfortable with telling people what they need and less what they want to hear.
Yeah.
You're the doctor. So
yeah,
just being comfortable and price point aside, you got to find something that's comfortable for you too, but being comfortable giving recommendations that are going to work.
Yeah.
And do the best job for the patient, regardless of whether or not they have any reservations about it, is going to be the best way to go. So that's what we've done as well. And then, the whole scheduling side and office flow side has been something we're working on too.
Yeah. So right now you're basically at like the 300 level.
Yeah, we're seeing a little over 300 consistently weekly.
And what's that? You said how much you see per day now? Like, what do you see in a normal day?
So in a normal week, we've had some holidays and stuff, anywhere between 60 and 80 patients a day. Yeah. And so, I went on vacation last week, which was nice because I was able to do that. Yeah. And I was here Monday, Tuesday, and we saw 100 patients each of those days. So, and we're all manual adjusting. So yeah, right now we're a little over the 300 mark. And I would say what the cool part is now kind of being able to design what it looks like to move forward. Mm-hmm. I personally, I'm comfortable at a little over 300. We could probably push it to 350 with just me alone. But now we get to come into this cool conversation of, what does an associate look like, or what does maybe another office look like? Yeah. And what I would say, if you put in the work, you get to this really cool part in practice where you can design your life and your lifestyle and your business, and it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are good problems to have.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know what it would be like to see 300 people by myself. Like I retired when I was seeing 75 a week, but I always like talking to guys like you that are like, yeah, I'm at 300. I'm thinking about maybe when I get to 350, bringing on an associate. Like I had my first associate in my practice when I was at 30 a week, because I was just like, how can anyone do this by themselves any more than what I'm doing right now?
And just for the listeners out there, you can probably hear it in my voice. I'm not 6'5", 250 pounds. I'm 5'8", 140. Okay. So if I can do it, you can do it.
Right. There you go. Fair enough. Well, Devon, anything that you have, any little tidbits or anything that you want to share before we sign off that we didn't cover?
What I have learned is that chiropractic is bar none the most amazing natural healing tool that exists, bar none. And I think that as chiropractors, we need to understand that we have this massive responsibility to our communities, to the country and to the world, to provide excellent care. And that doesn't include the chiropractic itself. That includes the entire patient experience. So what I would say is just understand that the sheer value of what we provide is so amazing that if you're starting out in practice, you've made the best decision you can possibly make, and just keep working. You may have to work some long hours, but it's 100% worth it in the end, because I go to bed every night knowing that I'm leaving people better than I found them. And there's nothing more worth it in the world.
Well, no better way to end it than that. I hope that you guys found a lot of value in this. I brought Devon on specifically because I love seeing success stories, especially early on in practice. And obviously he is crushing it. And even guys like me that have been in it for a long time, I picked up some nuggets along the way. So I hope everyone found some value. Devon, I appreciate you taking some time after a long day of seeing patients and changing lives. And we'll see you on the next one.